Today, Sylvie and I are in the Bedfordshire village of Willington, which is situated about 4 miles to the southeast of the town of Bedford. We're walking through the village to a place where there are a couple of interesting historic old buildings. Before we reached the buildings, we stopped to take a quick look inside the village church, which apparently has an old item of curiosity. As it happened, the church wasn't open on the day we came, so I took these scenes the following weekend when both the church and the historic buildings were open to the public. This strange object is in fact the church's old central heating boiler, but it's not the object that we've come to see. Back in the 16th century, the lord of the manor was a man by the name of Sir John Gostwick, who was master of the horse for Henry VIII. His tomb lies inside the church, but nearby, mounted on a plinth on the wall, is a replica of the helmet he wore at the historic Field of the Cloth of Gold tournament in 1520. The tournament was a lavish event held in France, which was also attended by Henry VIII, and it lasted for over 18 days. In the fields behind the church are 2 buildings, which were constructed by Sir John Gostwick to commemorate a visit to Willington by King Henry VIII in 1541. The first one is a spectacular Tudor Dovecote, and this is one of the finest in the country. And this dovecote could house over 1,500 pigeons and doves, and these were a valuable food source in the 1500s. Directly opposite the Dovecote is the Tudor Stable building. Sir John Gostwick was previously knighted by Henry VIII for his role in helping with the dissolution of the monasteries after the King's break from the Catholic Church. And during the King's stay at Willington, it's believed that his entourage were accommodated here in the stables. The buildings are now owned by the National Trust and have fixed opening days. As with the church, we had to come back the following weekend to see them open. We're now setting off from the buildings along the lane. About 200 yards down the lane, we come to a gate with a wheel on it. We're now standing on what used to be the Bedford to Cambridge railway line. The railway line closed in 1968 as part of the Beechings cuts. On our return walk, we'll be going down the course of the old railway, where some of the old features still exist. We're passing through the gate and heading out into a vast area that was once a massive sand and gravel quarry. Quarrying only finished here in the past couple of years, and now the whole area has been turned into a nature reserve. As we enter the reserve, we take a right turn and head along the trackway towards the River Great Ouse, where we'll cross a bridge and pick up a footpath on the other side. When we reached the river, however, we ran into a problem. The bridge, which is clearly marked on our map, was no longer there. We later found out that it was dismantled in the past couple of years when quarrying finished. Well, we had to quickly make alterations to our route and decided to walk along the river to the next crossing point, which was near Bedford, and was the route I had originally planned for our return walk. Along the path, we stop occasionally to view the river. Eventually, we come to a path leading off from the trackway, and I double check the map to make sure that it's the correct one that we wanted. This path takes us under the A241 flyover. Somewhere along the path we should come to a lock with a footbridge crossing. A few hundred yards along the path, we come to the lock. We cross the footbridge and carry on until we come to a place called Castle Dairy Farm, so named as it was once the site of a Norman Motte and Bailey castle. After we pass through the farm, we come to a crossing on one of the busy roads leading into Bedford. We cross the road and take the path which runs beside a housing estate on the outskirts of the town. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the only path. It's the only path here. Looks right. Okay. I had to plan our new route as we went along and looked for a footpath that took us out towards the next destination, the village of Renhold. A few hundred yards along the path, and there was some confusion as to which direction the path took. Hidden behind some trees, however, was one of Sylvie's dreads, a stile. Sylvie really hates these things. You can do it, go on. I'll give you a hand, hang on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we go up here, Sil. Yep, and there should be a footpath at the top, turning off to the right somewhere. Right, Sil, over you go.
For God's sake.
Sylvie loves these things. Well, as we get closer to the village of Renhold, we come to another stile. And no sooner as we get over this one, there was another one just a few yards away. This wasn't Sylvie's day. But finally, we reached the village of Renhold. Renhold isn't a conventional type of village. It's comprised of several little hamlets stretched from east to west for about 2 miles. There was once a couple of pubs in the village, but we found out that one of them had recently been destroyed by fire, and the other one was right at the other far end of the village, 2 miles away. Well, we eventually reached the far end of the village, where, right next to this lovely old 17th century farmhouse, was the remaining pub, the Pole Hill Arms.
Cheers, my dear.
Oh, another warm one. Go.
Needs that.
Yeah. Oh, that's looking tempting. Whoa.
Lovely.
Well, after a much needed drink, we set off on our return walk. Unfortunately, the footpath we need to take back is right next to the pub. The footpath takes us back across the route where we had to come out, and Sylvie spots some of her favourite animals, piglets. No, you can't have one. Well, we now head back across the busy road and down through the Castle Dairy farm. After we'd gone back under the A421 flyover, I had planned to cut straight across the Quarry Nature Reserve, but I had to keep checking the map to make sure we had the correct path. Yeah, I think we turn right here, Sylv. Yep, this takes us back to Willington. We soon came to one of the large lakes that were created when the quarrying finished. These days it's a great place for bird watching. We had heard a few cuckoos on the way out this morning. We finally crossed the reserve and ended up back on the old railway line. Here we took a left turn and walked back along its original course. Pretty soon, remnants of the old railway become visible. Although Old Willington station no longer exists, the platforms still do, although they're heavily overgrown. It's ironic that over 50 years after it was shut down, the government of today want to rebuild it. And strangely enough, people were angry when it originally closed down, but many are now angry that they want to build a new one. And the village of Renhold is likely to be affected when it happens, and many there are not too pleased. But it makes you wonder why the old line wasn't just mothballed rather than destroyed completely. The track brings us to a car park, and it's here we come to Willington's popular attraction, the Danish camp. Built on the site of where Danes built a small harbour in the river, it's now a popular venue for functions and parties, and Sylvie's niece even got married here several years ago. We stop here for a cup of tea before heading home. The walks covered about 8.5 miles and took 5.5 hours, and despite the missing bridge, it all worked out well in the end. Anyway, see you next time.